economy that I felt like was probably the best vehicle for understanding how bad things might be. For those of you who are listening and not watching, this is a Fox Business segment entitled McDonald's Flashes Warning Signs About the State of the Consumer. So, this is a panel discussing the decrease in fast food sales in the United States of America, which I don't think there could be any better indicator on the state of the American consumer other than like fast food sales. So I think that we could do this one, and then we'll jump into like the farmer interviews.
We've got McDonald's earnings today, and the company is not painting the rosiest picture of the economy. Mickey D is saying that Americans are cutting back, especially younger Americans. And they are not alone. Cava also slashing its sales forecast again. And brands from Coca-Cola to Chipotle, Brian's favorite, say that they're seeing the same thing, a widening gap between customers who are trading down and those who don't have to. The wealthy are spending, but the working class is trimming their value meals. Lou, how do you see this? I was just looking at all the stock.
Value meal costs like $8 now. Like, I remember the first time I walked into like a McDonald's and a Wendy's, and I realized that there wasn't a dollar menu anymore. Like, there's no such thing as a value meal anymore. That's just not the world we live in.
And I was talking to Charles Payne earlier today. So the retail spider, the XRT, is down 6% in the last month.
Consumer discretionary has not been a very strong performing sector. It's sending mixed signals about the strength of the consumer. I think this is indicative of that. You're seeing value consciousness. But at the same time, I want to point out, and I know we always bring this up in tandem with these consumer stocks, but GLP-1 drugs are now going to be the best-selling drugs in the country now, outpacing Merck's Keytruda at over $30 billion a year. So think about that. That was a cancer drug. Now this is a weight loss drug. And you're pairing that with higher costs of food and less consumption. I think this is a trend that you really have to be careful with. Like Chipotle, I don't want to.
That's so dark. America, the way he's saying it. I mean, I feel like he's saying that like Americans are just like, he's making like Americans are trimming back like naturally. You can't look at this as a sign of a waning economy, perhaps, because like Americans are becoming more and more conscious about their weight, and so they might just be cutting back on fast food generally. But honestly, it sounds more like because Americans can't afford food anymore, that they're being forced to take like drugs that like destimulate or like suppress their appetite, which is like a lot more dark. It's a lot more dystopian when you think about it that way.
Of food and less consumption. I think this is a trend that you really have to be careful with. Like Chipotle, I don't want to pick on Brian when he's not here.
Do it.
But that stock is not just suffering from sensitivity, economic sensitivity. It's suffering from brand staleness and just inconsistency, which is the bellwether of good franchises. Everything is the same. I think McDonald's is very similar, right? They're going to bring out the value meal. I remember when hamburgers and cheeseburgers were 59 and 69 cents. When they get north and meals are costing $15 to $20. I'm not going to McDonald's. I'm going to find some other way.
Can I add on to that? The problem is the price got so expensive, it's no bargain anymore.
Right.
And if you're a health conscious consumer, which many of our consumers are in America, not everybody, but more are, you also realize since the inflation crisis under Joe Biden, the quality of these cheap
Joe Biden
places,
mentioned
dining restaurants, the quality's gone down. You're using worse oils, cheaper
Joe
oils,
Biden
cheaper
ruined burger.
meats. And so I do think there's a segment of the population sitting back and saying, I'm paying more for this. I'm getting less food and less quality. Maybe there is an alternative.
Cava is down 53.55% this year. Crazy. Cava, for those of you who have never worked in like the central business district of an American like metropolis before, is like Chipotle but like Mediterranean food. So like you can get like bowls and like wraps. It's pretty good. I like Cava.
And the cheapest alternative would be packing a snack from home.
We were talking about the stock performance, and I think I'm surprised because they introduced about a year ago that $5 meal deal, and it really resonated with a lot of people who felt they needed the value meal to come back because things had gotten so expensive. But Lou, I know we're
I mean, of course it resonates with people. Who doesn't love a $5 meal deal? It sounds like, you sound like it's crazy to go. People love a good bargain. It's a $5 meal deal. People were really excited about being able to afford
because things
food.
had gotten so expensive. But Lou, I know we were talking about the stock earlier, hasn't really reflected the extra demand in there. I will end on a light note. McDonald's is trying something really fun. In 500 stores, they're doing a sample test before they roll this out nationwide. Right now, it's in Colorado and Wisconsin, and the CEO said in September it's performed really well. They're testing like crafted sodas and refreshers. So there's a vanilla cold brew, a vanilla frappe, a strawberry watermelon refresher, and a popping tropic refresher. So they're trying to use those gimmicks to bring people in during sort of the low period when people aren't going in for a breakfast or a lunch. We'll have to see how it does.
Yeah. You called it gimmicks.
I mean, it's kind of a stupid gimmick. It's kind of a stupid gimmick to like tout out like a new cool refresher in the middle of the winter or like the beginning of the winter moving into the end of the fall. But I don't know. It seems like that's just adopting things that like Sonic and Taco Bell have had for years. It's not a really good idea in my opinion.
When people aren't going in for a breakfast or a lunch. We'll have to see how it does.
Yeah. You called it gimmick.
I prefer like I'll handcraft my own soda if you put like a Coke Freestyle machine in the restaurant like Five Guys does. Like I don't want you to handcraft my soda. I want to handcraft my soda. I want to mix strawberry Fanta with like a vanilla Fanta to make like a strawberry vanilla Fanta at the movie theater. Like I'm my own soda craftsman. Put a Slurpee machine in the corner. Give me a cup dispenser, and let me go to town. Put me in, coach. I'm ready. I'm ready to be the soda craftsman.
Period. When people aren't going in for a breakfast or a lunch. We'll have to see how it does.
Yeah. You called it gimmicks. I don't ever think of McDonald's brand associated with anything craft and high quality. It's just not. It's value.
But this is not about just restaurant chains and GLP-1 drugs. Even the consumer staple stocks have not.
How could, if it's America, it's entirely about restaurant chains and GLP-1 drugs at this point.
GLP-1 drugs, even the consumer staple stocks have not been doing well. And Charles mentioned this.
Kimberly Clark.
32 of the 37 consumer staple stocks are in the red. Only one is up more than 1%. And if you look at the in the S&P, they're not performing well, and it does suggest a rolling recession. And I've heard this over and over again, that if not for the spending on the AI data centers, we would be in a recession.
No, that's not true. If you look Q1 of this year, AI data centers accounted for the majority of GDP growth. Q2, you saw pretty much every other segment. This is more a classical rotation in a bull market. Consumer staples should not perform well.
Yeah, don't let the truth trickle in to break up the narrative. Like they do everything other than to admit that for all intents and purposes, if you're not in like a very, very narrow slice of the market, you are in a recession or even a depression likely. And maybe you have been like, hey, they want to mention Joe Biden, I'll mention Joe Biden too. Maybe you have been since Joe Biden was president. Shit, maybe you have been since Obama was president or Trump was president the first time. Like America has left more and more people behind socially, economically than ever before, and it's been the case. Like it's every election leaves more and more people behind. Every election we say more and more people need to accept that this election will not meaningfully impact their material or social conditions because the Democratic Party can't afford to fight for you anymore because it's not politically advantageous anymore. But you should still get out there and vote because there are still people out there who that's not true for. And maybe one day it could be true for you again, maybe, possibly, but not this election. And so, of course, like it's likely that large portions of the population, large sections of the country have been in mass material deprivation for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Certainly, NAFTA was the death knell of a lot of parts of the industrial Rust Belt community.
Not true. If you look Q1 of this year, AI data centers accounted for the majority of GDP growth. Q2, you saw pretty much every other segment. This is more a classical rotation in a bull market. Consumer staples should not perform well in a bull market when tech is doing well, when financials are doing well. They do best when we get into a bear market, but it is something to pay attention to. But this is a defensive sector. You'd expect to see this going up as the markets are correcting and on the brink of a bear market. So I think it's indicative of multiple trends, and it's just like trying to put a finger on what's going on with the consumer. We've been doing that for 12, 24 months. There's no clear signal, but it's definitely a concern because if the consumer...
You guys hear this? There's no clear signal what's going on with the consumer. There's no clear signal what's going on with the consumer.
I think it's indicative of multiple trends, and it's just like trying to
Who's
put a
to
finger
say?
on what's going on with the consumer. We've been doing that for 12, 24 months. There's no clear signal, but it's definitely
There's
a concern.
no clear
'cause if the
signal. No
consumer
one can say
rolls
what's
over
going on.
and stops spending, then that's going to be a bad harbinger for
I
the
think
economy.
the key is in the name, the value meal, and that it's not a value anymore. And people don't see fast food as a value. They're sticker shocked actually by it. And so, they're still eating something they have to eat. They're just figuring out, other alternatives for themselves.
There's always
Some people aren't eating at all. Like, especially during this shutdown, some people aren't eating at all. That's the thing. A lot of people live in food insecurity. So yes, certainly, I've been to a fast food restaurant in the United States recently and gotten like sticker shock and being like, damn, really? Like for bacon, egg, and cheese, crazy. But like a lot of people just don't have money for food. Like it's you don't want to believe it about the greatest country in America, but like I don't know what. 20% of Americans are in food insecurity or some crazy high number.
To eat, they're just figuring out, other alternatives for themselves.
There's always the a la carte option of a snack wrap.
Those aren't even that good. You talked about these like new
guys.
refresher drinks, and one, it seems like they're trying to be like Starbucks, and two, like here's actually a simple fix that would attract more customers. Instead of putting out all these refreshers, switch to beef tallow to do your French fries in. Right? That's extremely
Interesting.
popular among my generation,
absolutely.
especially on social.
Oh my God. Oh God. Jesus. I had no idea what she was going to say. I had forgot about the beef tallow thing. Did anyone do that besides Steak and Shake? And who the hell even... No one's going to Steak and Shake. Come on.
Here's actually a simple fix that would attract more customers. Instead of putting out all these refreshers, switch to beef tallow to do your French fries in. Right? That's
Switch to
extremely
beef
popular among
tallow.
my generation,
Absolutely.
especially on social media. So that's one way to bring back that younger generation who's trying to be more health conscious while giving them your product and making them feel like they're not killing themselves.
At least they haven't
I'm
tried to
not
update their
gonna-
logo or anything and ruin
Right.
it.
I'm going to dig my McDonald's coffee cup out of the garbage, but I
I'd
have
love to be
at
on the
least
show.
one black
I'd love
coffee
to be
from
on the show.
McDonald's every
I
single
would-
day by
I would
the
just
app
turn
because
my
you get a
brain
great
right
deal.
off.
I have cut back on my Starbucks. I rarely ever go to Starbucks anymore, and I get the McDonald's coffee. Maybe these refreshers will be a cheaper alternative for people. Maybe that's what they're trying to do over, presenting craft drinks like they're something that they're not.
It's not a raging bull market when private credit and private equity firms are in the toilet.
I agree. That's why they're
Blue Owl
clamoring.
is down
Yeah.
14%.
Take his ass to the cleaners. Confront him with facts and logic. Put him in the logic octagon because he's saying again everyone's doing fine. Like she's just gonna rattle off all the things wrong with the economy. What is it? Commercial real estate foreclosures or bankruptcies are like record high too. Like the amount of like personal debt people
Not
are
a
in.
raging bull
It's
market when
endless signals.
private credit and private equity firms are
Yeah.
in the toilet.
I agree. That's why they're
Blue Owl
clamoring.
is down
Yeah.
14% in the last 6 months. I could go on, but I'm just saying that
Homelessness,
what
record
we're
numbers.
seeing the consumer companies and restaurant chains saying is showing up in stocks.
Listen, there's
Homelessness at record numbers. Record number of auto loan not foreclosures, but delinquencies. It's endless signals of how bad the
The
economy is
consumer
doing.
companies and restaurant chains
Commercial,
saying is showing
residential
up
real
in
estate.
stocks.
Listen,
as
there's
well.
cracks. The private credit, you've been early on that, and I think you've been dead
They're
right.
cracks.
The fact that they want to get access to 401k money to bail them out is really the bridge. So I think it's a terrible idea. It's a sign of weakness to come.
Yeah.
But not yet.
I might have been out for a long time, but to me, coming back, it feels like there's more and more talk than I've heard in a while about the K-shaped economy. And Dagan, I think you alluded to this, the top 10% are spending half of it, or supporting half of the spending. And I feel like the bottom half in that K-shaped recovery is getting worse and worse. And we could bring this back to the election, right? We could debate on whether socialism is the answer to that, but affordability seems top of mind more than it's ever been, particularly
These are the
for
lingering
me.
effects of inflation, right? The wage growth was just enough to keep ahead of inflation so that you can maintain your level, but we haven't seen, as inflation's cooled, wage growth accelerate where the average American is doing better. They're just not.
waiting for
inflation cooled, the prices stayed up. They never came down.
Yeah, it's the rate of change cooled. Yeah, you're right.
Brianna, we're waiting for the one big beautiful bill to kick in.
Yeah, and I feel like Republicans have a very short window. You know, they have 1 year that they have power to not only work to actually bring the prices down where people can feel it, because egg prices are down, gas prices are down, and I do think
nothing
there's
else
a big
is.
disconnect. I saw on CNN the other day.
That was a real monkey's paw situation for the American people with the eggs and gas thing.
Someone said, well, egg prices are still up. And Scott Jennings had to say, actually, they're statistically down. So there's a disconnect with the messaging that Republicans are doing that they need to get on board with before 2026. And there's other things like with the big, beautiful bill that are going to take some time to be implemented, and it might be too late.
I heard somebody on Instagram refer to, with Mondani getting elected as the mayor, it's still going to turn into an economy in New York City of people who either order DoorDash or deliver DoorDash. You're looking at...
Wait, did you say still? Yeah, that's what it is now. That's what it is now. The proliferation of gig workers is just like the inevitable consequence of the service worker economy that has been crafted to create this kind of incredibly precarious but like semi-permanent underclass of people to service like white collar workers in cosmopolitans. Like it's part of like the deal that capitalists make with their underlings to like they get to play lord over service workers, they get to play lord over like gig workers, and then they eat shit at their job. They eat shit at their email sending job.
Some time to be implemented, and it might be too late.
I heard somebody on Instagram refer to, with Mondani getting elected as the mayor, it's still going to turn into an economy in New York City of people
it's already there. It's not just New York City that's the economy. That's the economy, because ultimately the gig worker is what every job wants to turn every employee into, that they can afford to turn into that job. Gig workers, H-1B visas, they want your employment, at-will employment. They want your employment to be as precarious as possible. That's why they hate unions. That's why they hate collective bargaining, unionization, because they want every worker to always be in fear of losing their job, and they want every person in fear of losing their job to think that to literally be 1 or 2 paychecks away from destitution, so that you don't cause too much trouble. You don't unionize your workplace. You don't speak out against the Democrats, against the Republicans in any way that's meaningful, because you have too much to lose. And so like the gigification, it makes it sound like it's going to get really big, but the making of every worker or every position in our society into like a gig worker, a temporary worker, a regional employee, a contractor is just part of like the inevitable consequence of the current system that it's the inevitable goal. It's not even the consequence. It's what they want. They want you to be that, precarious. Intend to be in like a 50-year mortgage. Although, I mean, it seems like even Republicans aren't like buying that one yet. He hasn't gotten them under control.